exploring digital for last mile distributors under the framing of the GDC's Innovation Challenge. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jessica Utiki, the project manager of the Global Distributors Collective. And just before we begin, I want to run through a few housekeeping bits. So I think we all know how to use Zoom by now, but just a reminder to keep yourself on mute and your video turned off to help us reduce any background noise or distractions. There'll be plenty of time to ask questions, so please do drop them in the chat as we go along. And as always, today's webinar is being recorded and we'll share the recording with you in the next few days. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Gerwin Jansen, who leads the GDC's Innovation Challenge workstream. Gerwin will run through the agenda before we hand over to the presenters.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica, and hello to everyone. I see people are still dropping in. So yeah, my name is Gerwin, and like Jessica said, I've been leading the innovation challenges at the GDC. And today we'll hear about two digital solutions for last mile distributors that have been developed or finessed within the context of our most recent GDC Innovation Challenge. But there's something else that we've been working on recently. If you could go to the next slide, yeah. So with the support of GetInvest, we've been developing a brand new digital services catalog that's now available on the GDC website. So let me just take this opportunity to remind you what this catalog is all about. So it features more than 70 digital solutions that are used and reviewed by GDC members. We hope that this catalog will help last mile distributors identify services that could streamline their operations, increase business efficiencies, and ensure agent compliance. So on the slide here, you see a screenshot from our website. You can search the catalog by keywords, filter by the priority functionalities that you're looking for, or by the average GDC member rating. We invite GDC members on this call to leave your own review, and of course suggest services that aren't yet included. And as mentioned, the catalog can now be found on the GDC website under the resources tab. And I believe one of my colleagues has already dropped a link to the catalog in the chat window here. So let's go back to the actual agenda for today's webinar, which is on the next slide. Yeah. So in the next 1 hour, you will hear directly from two of the project teams that took part in our latest innovation challenge. This challenge focused on building resilience in the sector and was launched in June 2020 with the support from UK8 and their Transforming Energy Access program. In the context of an increasingly digital world, which was accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, not surprisingly, all 5 project teams in our innovation challenge have looked at the opportunity for digitalization within last mile distribution, which goes from managing credit risk to exploring online product sales and remote team management. We've split this webinar in 2 halves, as we are aware that some of you might only be interested in one of the 2 presentations. This also means that we expect more people to drop in later when the second presentation starts. First up are GDC member Econome and Sevi. What you can expect from them is a demo of their e-commerce app that they have optimized for group sales. The team will dig into experiences of Econome and Sevi working closely in partnership, and their key lessons and top tips for others interested in exploring this solution for online sales. This will be followed in the second half of this webinar by a presentation from GDC member Kambasco and Upya, who will present their credit risk management solution. But I'll get back to that later in the session once their time has come. There will be plenty of time to ask questions, so please drop them in the chat box as we go. And it would be very helpful if you could indicate which speaker your question is for. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today and hand over the mic. On the next slide, we'll see the names. Yeah, starting on the left, we'll have Walter from Sevi joining us and Linda from Econome. And on the right, you see your second team for the second half of this call, We'll hear from Emily and Charlie from Upya, and Mohammed, who's joining us from Uganda, from Kambasco. And with that, yeah, I'll hand over to Linda to kick us off.
Thank you, Erwin. Next slide, please. So just to start off, I am the founder of Econome. Econome is a Kenyan company that is a last mile distributor. And on top of that, we also offer financing for the products that we sell. Our main goal for this innovation was to find a way of digitally connecting rural customers to modern goods which we sell. Next slide, please. Just for background, we were established 3 years ago, and our mission is to offer affordable financing for a range of products and other solutions that would increase productivity and savings for rural consumers. So rather than only identifying ourselves as last mile distributors, we also consider one of the main challenges which our consumers face, which is access to finance, and have made it our goal that we combine both the financing element and access to products for them. Next slide. And when the call for this innovation was made, it was during the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a very young business, at the time we were only 1 year old, we were immediately hit, and we were hit badly. And I believe this was the case for many other businesses, because according to one of the recent reports from the GDC, 85% of most businesses like ours struggled to survive the pandemic. And we started off by using the agency model. So we had over 100 agents at the time. And because of the restrictions that were imposed on meetings and movement and lockdowns, this really affected our business. And we saw a significant drop from January, where we had seen an upward trend and were really optimistic at the beginning of 2020. But within a short span of 2 months, our sales were almost down to zero. And at the time, we had no way of reaching our customers. And so, this call was very timely. And we thought of how can we reach these groups of customers through a digital platform, and to enable us to find an alternative way to sell. We also did not have the money. So this partnership with Sevi, which is an IT developer, came in very handy, because together we were able to develop a platform which is open, I believe by now, for sharing with other distributors like ourselves. And because we all face the same challenges when it comes to the market that we serve, our market lacks access to modern goods, and we all want to create sustainable businesses, which most of us at the moment don't have. Next slide. I will hand over to Walter.
Thank you very much, Linda. So next slide, please. So as Sevi, when we entered this challenge together with Econome, we started out as an IT platform, basically to sell groups on credit to groups and to really manage these credits well. But throughout the pilot, we had a lot of learnings and captured these learnings already in the product. So next slide. You'll see that we have now added a credit fund to our proposition as well. So basically what Sevi is currently offering is an IT platform plus credit fund. Next slide, please. And what our offering is that we provide a platform. It's an order now, pay later platform, whereby the seller, so in this case Econome, got 80% paid when they deliver a product to their customer. Their customer, so the buyer, starts paying us in different installments. And these installments are quite flexible. So together with Econome, we have decided what kind of credit plans they wanted to offer to their buyers. Once the buyer has paid off all these installments, then the final 20% is also paid to the seller, so to Econome. So this is our offering that was developed and improved throughout the pilot period. So to show you how it works, I have some slides, which is basically a demo to go through the platform. So if you go to the next slides, next one. So we first started off with an interface purely focused on the end user, so the customer. The customer is able to do everything themselves through the Sevi app, ordering a product, selecting their credit plan and paying off their installments. But we also found throughout the pilot that not all customers were able to do that, even if they have a smartphone. For them, it was still quite hard to use it, or they didn't feel comfortable using it, especially the older generation. So for the younger people, it was quite comfortable. So that's when we started to also introduce an agent interface. So now the Sevi app has both an end user interface as well as an agent interface. So all the next steps that I'm going to show you can both be done by the agent, so the sales agent of your company, as well as by the end user, the buyer. Next slide, please. So how it works for a buyer when they enter the platform, they create a profile and they create an account basically on Sevi. We need to do a KYC process there because it's a financial product that we're offering. So we fully automated this process. We only ask for a photo, their phone number, and scan of the ID card. And through AI, we've been able to verify all the information on the ID card, of the photo of the person, if it's real, and we verify the phone number. And based on those verifications, we know that we deal with the person who he says he is. So this full process is being done within 1 minute. So the agent can do it for the customer, or the customer can also do it themselves. Next slide, please. So once they have a profile on Sevi, they can select a credit plan for an order they have placed. They can select, in this case, in this example, you see 2 different credit plans. They can select a 2-week or a 16-week plan, and all the fees are transparently shown. So they see exactly what they're going to pay, how much is added as fees, how much the deposit is, and how much they're going to pay on a weekly basis. And if they agree, then the credit plan is being activated. Then when the product is delivered, the initial deposit is being taken out of their account. Next slide, please. So then once the credit is running, they have a detailed overview of all these installments. They can exactly see what the due dates are when they need to pay. They can pay easily through M-Pesa and just top up their Sevi account before the due date. On the due date, we deduct the installment amount from their Sevi account. So as long as they've topped up their Sevi account before the due date, all is fine. We send reminders through SMS to them to make sure that they pay on time, and also after the due date, we keep reminding them, but we also send reminders to the seller so they can follow up with their buyer if they are late. So this is the steps basically for the buyer. If you go to the next slide, next one, for the seller side. If a new seller wants to integrate with Sevi, there are basically 3 options. The first one is a ERP integration. So if many of the bigger companies have their own ERP system, we can integrate with that. Orders being created on your own ERP are then through APIs sent to Sevi, and we can make sure that the right credit plans are added to that order. We also have a webshop integration. So this is also what we've done with Econome. You see an example there in the screenshot. The different products are in the webshop. A buyer or an agent can select one of these products, and then on checkout, you see Sevi as a payment option. Once they select Sevi as payment option, they go to the Sevi app. The order is being shown within the app, and they can select again the right credit plan there. And then the last option is to create the order within the app itself. So in the Sevi app, you can just create a new product, take a photo of the product, create an order, and based on that order, you can again select the credit plan. So those are the 3 ways to integrate with Sevi for a new seller. Once integrated, next slide, please. You'll be able to onboard your own customers. So you invite them by their phone number. They get invited. You see a whole list of all your customers within the app. In this example, in the screenshot, you see that some have not been verified yet. So they still need to be KYC'd, which can be done from within the app. If you click on their name, we just guide you through a simple stepper to make sure that these new customers are being KYC'd. Once KYC'd, you see their profiles there, and you can create orders for them, select credit plans for them, and serve your customers on Sevi. Next slide, please. And then finally, we also provide a dashboard, so you can keep track of your KPIs, so products sold, but also the status of all the credits, how much is outstanding, how much is late, which people need to be reminded, etc. So that's all on the dashboard that we share with you as a seller. So that's a brief overview of what the Sevi app is offering. In the next slides, on our website, there is a demo video which shows you all these steps in real time in a short video, so you can exactly see what happens within the app as well. Thank you very much.
Next slide, please. So in terms of the experiences that we've had, we obviously have enjoyed the buy now, pay later model because of this fund that Sevi has enabled us to access. And that means there's not a lot of huge pressure in terms of our cash flow from the financing of the products. The app itself accommodates flexible repayments. So, even for cash sales, which are not very common, somebody can just pay upfront without any additional costs. And we have different payment plans that we have been designed to cater for the different customers we have. We have, like a 2 weeks plan, 1 month, 2 months, and we go up to a maximum of about 20 weeks. And I believe, depending on your unique requirements, this could be, discussed and adjusted. And already we have that integration with WooCommerce, which enables us to add different products at any time, because we sell a range of products. Sometimes we introduce new products along the way and discontinue others, and this is an easy way of making those available at any time. We can run promotions by adjusting prices on the app in real time. So overall, I would say this it's worth it. It's something that you need to try. Obviously, it's not a perfect system. I would say we started off from scratch, and in terms of the challenges that we faced, initially, and Walter has already alluded to this, we had to redesign the app based on the feedback that we got from the groups that we were dealing with. So, that took like another 1 to 3 months to do the redesign. Some of the end user challenges we faced, people not being very tech savvy, rural consumers, in as much as now they have access to smartphones, this is for the case of Kenya, and internet access is fairly good in rural areas. A number of them still don't know how to use different apps. I think the most common is WhatsApp and Facebook for the younger people, but using this type of apps is still not very easy for them. And so we had a challenge, and hence the need to introduce the agent interface to help them complete the process. On the guarantorship of group loans, we also faced issues with some members not wanting to guarantee others. So again, that was redesigned to allow for individual members to select the guarantorship. And then another huge challenge which actually affected initial usage of the app was the mobile money charges. In Kenya, the app payments are made through M-Pesa, and there are charges that are associated with that, which were being borne by the customer. So many of them were not making payments to the number that was required to update their payments on the app. And because we already had another M-Pesa payment platform, which is the till number, and that one doesn't have any customer charges, most of them were paying money there, and we had to transfer the same to the app, and it was creating double work. So we approached Safaricom and those charges were reset. So now we bear 100% of the mobile money charges, which to recover on that, it's factored in the pricing of the product. And the one big challenge that we are still working on to date is delayed payments. So in as much as the app is digital, you can see, everything in real time. That has not really translated to changing customer behavior, making them to pay on time. So we still have a lot of delayed and late payments, although the default rate is not as high, but they take way longer to make their weekly installments as opposed to them paying on the day that they are required to pay. And that's a very big risk on our end. And it also just indicates the consumer behavior, the profile of the type of customer we are dealing with, rural consumers. A lot of them, the main challenge is money, getting money. So their incomes are not very regular, and sometimes the only money they have is for food. And so that's an area where we are still trying to explore how to overcome that challenge. Next slide, please. Yeah, so very quickly, we have learned that customers still need, obviously they require consumer financing because we've seen a very great uptake through the app. And offering credit for lower value products is also, because most of the late payments we have are from consumers that have bought lower value products. Digital literacy is still a challenge. And in terms of working with Sevi, I would say the relationship has really worked well, mostly because we are in constant communication. During the pilot, we were communicating on religiously on a weekly basis. Now we check in with each other once a month, but we have WhatsApp, and anytime there's an issue, we communicate very fast. So in terms of response, the response rate is really high, and that is what has really made this successful. And I'm happy to say that we have adopted this, the use of the Sevi app for our sales post-pilot. And right now, all our credit sales are through the app, and they actually account for over 50% of our overall sales. So as a whole, I would say this has been successful. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Linda. And thanks, Walter, for the demo. Thanks for being so open about the challenges you experienced and how together you found solutions for those challenges. I haven't seen any questions appear in the chat box yet, so let me remind the audience that now is the time to ask Walter and Linda your questions. We did receive some questions during the registration. Some of you left a question on the registration form. And I think there is one that might be on the mind of many of you, which is about what it takes to replicate this solution in another context, say another country, another market. And Linda, you talked about how you've learned a lot about the digital literacy of your rural consumers to adopt these e-commerce solutions, for example, and the mobile money charges in Kenya that has an influence on the success of mobile money payments for credit. Could you tell those that are interested in replicating this in another environment, what would be like the first things to look at before you would look at customizing this solution for that context? So what are kind of the must-haves for last mile distributors to consider this solution?
Yeah, so we have scaled it up to Uganda, and one of the things that are necessary is a good mobile payment infrastructure. So we need to be able to integrate to mobile money providers through API. So this is a must to have within the country. Then, of course, also legally, there are a lot of things to look into before you go to a new context. So the regulatory environment in Uganda is already different than in Kenya. So we needed to comply with the local supervisory board in Uganda to see what we could do for a pilot there, and when we should get a license, for example. So yeah, those things legally and mobile payments are the most important ones to have in place. And then the IT infrastructure, of course, is very scalable. So that's quite easy to implement in other countries. It's multi-currency, so we can adjust it easily to other currencies and to other languages as well.
Thanks, Walter. Linda, do you want to add something?
The one, yeah, I mean, access to the digital platform is important. And the one thing that, again, is use of smartphones. So in Kenya, a number of consumers have access to a smartphone because the process must be completed with a smartphone. And where there are, you know, where access to smartphones is limited, then the way the app is currently designed, it cannot work with a feature phone. So, you know, that's an area where I would say Sevi could work on to cater for this market, because these other markets, Kenya usually is, you know, if you compare Kenya to other countries, is slightly ahead in terms of penetration of technology. So we have that advantage. But even with that, even with access to the phone, it doesn't mean that the users still can use the app. So, you know, the digital literacy is something that is yet to be experienced, more so for older demographics, rural consumers. A number of them still have a challenge in knowing how to navigate through smartphones. And that's not just for us, I would say. I believe it's for all other digital platforms that exist out here. A number of them have challenges in accessing rural consumers because of that the divide in the digital literacy. And in terms of mobile money charges, Kenya is in a unique situation where we have, well, as much as we have other telcos and they also offer mobile money, I can confidently say like 99% of Kenyans use M-Pesa. So, you know, it's more like a monopoly in as much as it's not. So the charges that are levied are really high, and especially for small amounts, small transactions, and that's what a majority of our customers make in terms of the installment payments. They pay about $5 a week. And the charge on that $5 is, I think, 500 shillings is about, if I'm not wrong, if they were to pay the charges themselves, that would cost them 28 shillings. That's like 28 cents. And it was, you know, if you look at the percentage, it's quite high. So we had to find a way of absorbing that, that cost. And I would advise last mile distributors to factor these additional costs in the pricing of the product rather than making customers to bear those costs. The other one that we are currently facing, it's still it's a new thing, is, you know, right now with the payment plans and the fees that are charged, especially with access of the credit fund from Sevi, it's the customer that pays that interest. A number of them still don't understand why they have to pay that additional amount. So it's still an ongoing problem that we will resolve with time. So, yeah.
Thanks, Linda. And everyone's talking about e-commerce these days, so it's really exciting to see how you made it work for this particular target group, with their sales agents playing a huge role in customer education and hand-holding them as they now get onboarded on these online shop for these online shop experiences. It's a pity that the other questions only came in at the very end, but I think there are a couple of good questions in the chat box. I'm afraid we have to move on with the next presentation, but Walter, Linda, if you could kindly look at those questions and then answer them in the chat box, that'd be great.
Okay, yes, I will. I can see them, and let me send the answers in the chat box. Thank you.
Great, and thanks again for your presentation. Yeah, so we'll be launching a poll shortly because we're curious to hear from the audience. So the poll should be visible now for all. So we'd like to understand how likely it is that you will apply the ideas and learnings shared by Econome and Sevi to benefit your own business. And then the other question is whether you're interested in connecting with Sevi as a service provider you might want to engage with in the future. So while you're answering the poll questions, I'll introduce the next speakers and their project. As we pull up the slides again. Yeah, so go to the next slide. We'll be listening to Kambasco and the Upya team that will present their work on creating a credit assessment tool that enables last mile distributors to better predict the credit worthiness of their customers. What's new about this is that the team has been using data sets from saving groups. In their case, village savings and loan associations, VSLAs in short, in Uganda specifically. We'll be hearing from Mohammed at first. Mohammed is the co-founder and director of Kambasco. And Mohammed will talk about the results coming from this project, as well as the value of working with a digital service provider like Upya. And after that, we'll hear from the Upya team. Charlie and Emily will give you a demo of the credit assessment tool coming from this project, which includes a customer onboarding questionnaire, which is now available on the Upya app for all those that are interested. And let me remind you that you can leave the questions that you might have in the chat box as we go. Just want to check if Mohammed, your sound is working.
Hello.
And
Hello,
yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, then the floor is yours.
My name is Kalyango Muhammad Chintu, Director and Co-founder of Kambasco Technologies Limited, a co-implementer of this credit risk assessment tool with the Upya, and I'm ready to take you through the pilot project as indicated in our few slides. It is done by Kambasco Technologies in partnership with Upya Technologies. Our view is to act as a bridge to finance for productive use solar PV solutions to create sustainable off-grid communities. And this led us to develop the concept that would help us deliver this cause to first of all to our customers, but also possibly to other GDC members who may want to follow the same concept. I'm going to talk through the few questions which were given to us, and one of the questions was actually the challenge we wanted to address and why we chose to partner with a digital service provider. Our main challenge was a default rate. So the default rate and value of pay-go financing during COVID-19 pandemic, and we did this, and the intention was to solve that challenge. And why we intended to partner with a digital service provider in this mission, it was primarily to deliver the tool to last mile distributors members online, so that once the system is ready, it can be delivered to LMDs in different parts of the country online. From the pilot project, I'm presenting this in line with the plan. So we plan to at least have 90% of customers pay as planned. By the time we were designing this, we were at 77%. That's the best percentage. And as we talk now, we have 81% who are on time, meaning these are paying as planned. So we are actually higher than 77, but we are 9% less to achieve the 90%. And then we have 12% who are 30 days late, and we have those who are 90 days late, 7%. In terms of agents, we had planned to train 7 agents, but we trained already 8 agents. The best period is that we had 0 people who had worked with this solution. Now, actually, we have 42 customers who are positive, and they have used these systems very well, and they rank it well. Also, we had a target of 10% cost reduction in financing late or default receivables. By the time we were doing this, we had 30% default rate. Now, financing of default is currently 20%, meaning that we have made a reduction to this financing by 9%. So we are yet to achieve the 10% reduction. We are still missing 1%, and this is going to be achieved in the near future. We also had a target of 13% default rate reduction from high loan burden. So by the time we started, this rate was at 26%, but now as we talk now, the default rate is at 19%, i.e. a reduction of 7%, and we hope it's still reducing so that we can achieve the target of 13% reduction in the default rate. Just a hint on the system architecture is that it all originates from the Excel risk tool, which was developed by Kambasco, and the information from this is mapped on a software which is Upya operated, and the two are coordinated or delivered to the customer through the mobile wallet. The interaction the customer gets is primarily at the mobile money when he's paying, and at the beginning at Upya, in the Upya app, when we are registering and ranking them. We see that it is a cheaper solution currently on the market as you compare with other providers. And then it has offline availability, meaning that it will be available when the internet is not available. And then it has a pay-go enabled for products made by Omnivoltaics, Schneider, and Amped. And then the list is continuing to grow as the team builds the global networking. And then the app is accessible on Android phones, and it also tracks contracts and modifications of contracts. It now already we have built in this system the credit risk assessment, which is a few tabs within the system that helps assess the customer before the customer is approved. At the beginning, a customer is assessed, and if he has less than 50% risk score, then is approved. So then it makes the initial deposit through our agents or with the help of our agents or staffs, and then once he makes this deposit, is given time. It makes the deposit using the mobile money. That's step C, using mobile money, and which is housed under our Your platform. The system captures the payment and gives the number of days. This one currently is running manually because there is some work we are completing with Upya and Yo to make sure that it is done automatically. After payment, the system unlocks. After we have entered the amounts that the customer paid, the system unlocks for a number of days that customer has paid. When you are developing such a software, you need regular communications between the parties or the partners. And then it also, task sharing needs to be adequately documented and agreed at the start. And then the agent training, we see that the agent training is very, very key during the process and after the process for them to give feedback. We also see there is a challenge with exchange gains and losses, which we think they must be shared, but also they need to be explained to partners at the beginning and understood properly. Then data protection laws require adequate analysis, meaning that the information that we get from people who share this information, sometimes in different countries require different laws to be followed, and this is important for anybody wanting to adopt this solution. The project requires gadgets to test the solution being developed. And with that, we come to the end of the presentation from Kambasco Technologies. We wish to hear from you for any collaboration, support on how you can carry forward with this project in your own companies. Thank you very much.
I'll let Emily, Charlie, who will take over.
I'll start.
Great.
And I'm not going to share a screen just now. But Charlie, I guess you can put the platform on. But I'll just introduce really how this tool was built, and then Charlie will take you through a demonstration of the tool. So the data collection functionality on the Upya CRM is what was used in this project to create the credit scoring questionnaire. And so that automatically enables the agent on the ground, at times off grid, to put a potential client into a bucket so that he might be rejected straight away, or he might be approved for sales, but maybe only for certain products or certain deals, depending on the scores that he gets once all of the questions have been answered. So the data functionality on Upya is very versatile, and it's used by all of our clients, of course, the regular LMDs, energy, water, e-mobility, but also mini grid developers or companies in the carbon credit space. It's really the main point really is to reduce human errors during client onboarding as much as possible, to make the agent's tasks as easy and straightforward as possible through the use of different tools, so drop-down menus, different question path with conditionality, basically everything you need to fully digitize your contract, including capturing the client signature as an example. So all of that is very important also, as I mentioned, for companies active in carbon credit project, because the data functionality really enables them to capture baseline impact data that can be required by the program. It can let them take loads of photos of very high quality, but that take little space on the agent phone for when he's completely off grid until he can come back and connect and send all this info to headquarters. The surveys, which are post-sales questionnaires, also allows for post-deployment impact data gathering, really supporting high quality impact reviews down the line. And then thinking about our mini grids clients, really paramount for upstream preparation, capturing leads, geographical or structural information about an area, and then to convert the leads into clients, and then to connect to the mini grid, but also later on for the sales of appliances. So I'm going to stop here, and I will let Charlie demonstrate how it looks.
Thank you, Emily, and yeah, thank you also, Mohammed, for the intro. Hopefully, everyone can see sort of two blue screens. There should be a mobile phone hovering about. So what I'm just going to show you here is I'm going to show you the sort of two interfaces. On the left is the web platform. So this is where you would set up your questionnaire. Okay, so this is the questionnaire that's going to be sent to the mobile app, and this will be in the hands of your agents or field staff. And when they interact with customers, they can enter the answers. So we're just going to go sort of through this together. And just to clarify, this is not the same questionnaire that Mohammed was using. We've just prepared a much simpler one so we can run through it in a couple of minutes. So the first one here, we've got this question, how big is your household? So you can see on the agent app, I can come in and draw from a selectable drop down. So I can then move on to my next question, etc. Now I'm going to show you how that question looks on the web app. So in here, I have a lot of different options, okay? So I can control the local translation versus the English translation. I can add some extra instructions from the agent, etc. I can also change the type of question here. So I've gone for a selectable, and you can pre-prepare answers for your agents. And then like Emily mentioned, there's a whole raft of options down here, which I'll sort of show off a bit later on. So if I go back to the mobile app now, I'm going to continue through the questionnaire. So do I have access to clean energy? I'm going to say yes. Okay, great. So the next question is, what type of clean energy product are you using? You'll notice this is a conditional question. So this question was only going to get asked if you answered yes. If you answered no, it was not going to let you basically answer this question. So it should streamline the process for you. So the next one here is household income. We mentioned about the credit scoring earlier. You can see we have some Ghanaian Sevis here. So if I choose one of these answers, the agent doesn't know this, but that's actually saved a credit score question in Upya. So if I go back down to incomes here on this side, I'll just zoom in a bit. You can see this is a weighted question. So if I open it up, I've got the same selectable answers set up, but I've added some weights to these questions. And I've also got a question weight down here. So depending on whatever tool you want to use to credit score your customers, we can accommodate it here in Upya, okay? So I'll just continue on through the phone and finish off the application. So do I have children? I'll say yes. How many children do you have? We'll pick 3, keep on going. Any of them go to school, we'll just say yes. What region do you live in? So you can see this is a conditionality option. If I pick Greater Accra, it's actually going to give me several different areas inside Accra. But if I went for a different region, it could give me that specific list. Keep on going. So a few extra bits of functionality here. We can add the GPS of the phone. So you don't need any special GPS on the units you're selling. You can just take it from the mobile phone of the agent, and that's the location of the sale. The next one here, you can take a picture of the customer. So if I just click on here, I'm going to get a picture of my laptop. So you can save the photo. And as Emily said, this photo is saved on the phone, so it's not trying to upload this just yet. And then very finally, you could sign it from your customer. Okay, so I'll go here to save, and then I'm going to press on save. So this registration is complete. If I go back on the app to my dashboard, you can see it's actually saved here in the to upload section. So the agent could edit something in this questionnaire, but if everything's okay, once he gets back into his network range, he can press on the synchronize button. So at that stage, the application will move over into pending. Now, if I go up to the web platform here, I'm just going to click on manage and contracts. And I'm going to look at pending. So you can see that we've just got this new test client uploaded here. So if I quickly click on the test, I've got a very quick profile already of the customer. And if I scroll down here, you can see all the answers to the questionnaire. Okay. Now, very finally, this is a very simplistic score, but I only had one weighted score. Okay. And he basically scored half a point out of my 1 point scoring. So that is all pulled from this answer here. So that's a very quick overview of how you would upload data using the Upya platform. And I think the final thing to emphasize is that this setup is completely within your control. It can be as many or as few questions as you want, and you can design the credit scoring method. So that is actually the end of my little presentation. I think I'll hand back over to Gerwin now.
Thanks, Charlie, for the demo, and thanks, Emily. I see you've also answered a question already coming from one of the participants. And apologies again, Mohammed, I had to cut you short because of time. I'm aware that these short webinars don't do justice to these complex digital solutions. But Mohammed, if we could get you back on the call. There are a couple of interesting questions with regards to change management for your sales agents. So assuming the customer onboarding questionnaire was new to them, how have you introduced this among your agents, and specifically how have you incentivized them to start using these digital solutions? Sorry, Mohammed, I see you're speaking, but I can't hear you. If you could just keep on trying. Give it one more try. And if not, then you might want to answer that question in the chat box by typing your thoughts in the chat. That work? Thanks. And then, yeah, maybe we can go back to Upya, and I'll see if there are more questions in the chat. But I know one thing that came up in the project was how do you develop a good customer questionnaire? And particularly, how do you find the sweet spot between the number of questions, because you want to learn a lot about your customers to do a good assessment, but you often don't have half an hour or an hour to interact with customers, and that's not really what sales agents are waiting for. So how do you strike the right balance between the number of questions and the interaction time with customers? And is this something that Upya can support last mile distributors on by sharing either best practices or support? Because you showed a couple of features in the tool, such as how you set the weight to various answers to questions. What can last mile distributors expect from you besides just the tool in terms of consultancy support?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're right. It's a difficult balance to strike. But I think it really is a process as well, right? So you would start with something. Often companies come to us with their own credit scoring model, and then you try it and you see through time, and you compare the results with what your credit scoring was initially telling you, and then you adjust. And that's why it's very important that the client really owns the tool, because then they're able to make adjustments, whenever they need to, and whenever they realize that actually one of the question is, maybe it's misleading, maybe in the way it's asked, or just, the weighting is incorrect. So yeah, we can certainly, we certainly do support clients who come to us with this specific request. And as we have more and more people asking for that, then, our knowledge grows as well, and our experience grows.
Yeah, I could just add a bit to that, Emily. I think it depends on the value of the product, depends on your local culture, so basically we ask that the distributor comes to us with that basic information, and then we can come back with some recommendations. But another option is to, you can have multiple questionnaires that run in different regions. Potentially, if you've got different sections of your business, you can try out different stuff. So it's not an exact science is our short answer to that, unfortunately.
That makes sense. Thanks. Just checking one more time, Mohammed, whether your sound is back.
So Mohammed left the call and joined again. So he's just joining now. Let's see if his sound's a bit better, Helen, for the last minute or two.
Sure, yeah. Mohammed, do you want to give it one more go? And if not, oh, you might be there. No.
We'll just launch the next poll while we're waiting for Mohammed.
That sounds good.
Back from this pilot.
We'll be wrapping up the webinar in that case. As with our previous presenters, we're interested in hearing from the audience to what extent you'll be building on those learnings presented in this call and your interest in working with Upya as a service provider. I'd like to thank all the presenters of today again, and apologies, Mohammed, we couldn't really make the sound work at the end. Yeah, over to Jessica to close this webinar.
Thanks, Herwin, and thanks again all the speakers and everyone who joined us today. Hopefully you'll have seen the poll that's being shared. Like Herwin suggested, we just want to get a bit more feedback. We will share the recording of this session with you in the next few days. And please do feel free to contact the companies directly if you want more information on what's been shared today. And thank you, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.